very ancient cultures. At the time of the barbarian tribes, there was one very important rule of war. As soon as the enemy had been vanquished or his army defeated, the reason for his very existence needed to be done away with. The only solution was to destroy everything belonging to him. Killing and shedding blood was regarded as a sacred duty among these tribes, who lived in a constant state of war. Even Rome, regarded as the most civilized state in the pagan world, was a place where human beings would be torn apart by wild animals or forced to fight to the death in the arena. However, another state at around that same time left all these far behind in its implementation of barbaric practices. Sparta, believed to have been founded in around the 8th century BC, was the first fascist state in history. The lives of strong and healthy children were dedicated to the state, but another fate awaited sickly babies: death. The songs that children were taught and allowed to sing were about nothing other than war and violence. Up to a certain age, their only duty was to improve their physiques by means of exercise, to grow strong, and to learn how to wage war. There was but one aim behind their training: to turn each one into a killing machine. Centuries later, fascist Germany and Italy, inspired by this philosophy of violence, would brainwash young minds in exactly the same way, producing killing machines from children's earliest years. One of those who made the most detailed comments about Sparta was the famous Greek philosopher Plato. He was truly impressed by the fascist regime in Sparta and portrayed it as a model state in his books. Thus it was that oppressive regimes received their first sources of inspiration. Plato cold-bloodedly defended the baby killing in Sparta and was the first theoretical proponent of the concept of eugenics. Plato's twisted views that regarded human beings as a kind of animal that could be made to evolve by being mated together re-entered the world stage with Darwinism in the 19th century. They were then translated into life by the Nazis in the 20th century. By means of this thinking and these practices, Plato and the Spartans revealed the fundamental characteristics of fascism, a mentality that regards human beings as a species of animal, fanatical racism, the praising of war and conflict.
In euch all das aufnehmt, was wir dereinst uns von Deutschland hoffen. Wir wollen ein Volk sein.
Hitler established his war strategy based on an admiration of the barbarian pagan tribes and on the fascist mindset of Sparta in particular. Ruthlessness and mass destruction. Hitler himself described Sparta as the state with the purest race in history. Ancient Rome, he thought, was the mightiest in history. If we can construct a synthesis of Athens, Rome, and Sparta, our state will last forever. It is for these reasons that the Second World War, which the Germans began by occupying Poland, was one in which innocent civilians were specifically targeted. The German armies destroyed those cities they encountered. They exterminated Jews, Slavs, Poles, and Gypsies. The German Air Force left not a stone standing in the cities it bombed to oblivion. The outcome of Hitler's ideology was 55 million people dead. In short, Nazism inflicted war and corruption on the world. Yet God's commandment is for peace to prevail in the world, not war. Those who do good and avoid corruption are given these glad tidings. That abode of the hereafter, we grant it to those who do not seek to exalt themselves in the earth or to cause corruption in it. The successful outcome is for those who guard against evil. Germany was not the first country to be engulfed by fascist ideology. At more or less the same time, a similar philosophy of violence had seized power in Italy. The party emblem was the pagan one of a bundle of sticks tied around an axe. The party leader was one Benito Mussolini. After the First World War, Italy was left facing terrible poverty. More than 600,000 people had died because of the war, and another 500,000 had been crippled. Economic depression and unemployment were rife. Most of the population consisted of widows and orphans. The war had cost the Italians a great deal, but they had achieved few of their aims. As with most people exhausted by war, the Italians longed for glorious victories and days of pomp and circumstance. The former glories of ancient Rome were recalled with longing, and the country still claimed rights to ancient Roman territories. In the same way that Nazi Germany looked back to the pagan culture of the past, Italy, too, was living on its dreams. Regarding the social tension and search for a system in Italy after the end of the First World War as an ideal opportunity, Mussolini brought together former soldiers, the unemployed, and various radical